Okay, so hello everyone, and today we have an exciting video, especially if you're a movie buff like me. I'm going to be looking at 5 films and showing how they are filled with art references and art themes. Now you probably recognize these films, and thankfully I have the DVDs of them, so I'll be showing them too. And I will be starting off with the one that's the oldest and finishing off with the one that is more recent. So what better way to start than to start in the 80s with Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Now if you've watched this movie, you probably know what scene I'm alluding to. It's literally one of the most iconic scenes in his day off when he goes to the Art Institute of Chicago and they just spend their time in the museum studying the paintings and doing that whole art appreciation vibe. One particular painting that I'll point out in the movie though is George Seurat's Sunday Afternoon on the Island of the Grand Jet. I hope I pronounced that well. It is a good example of pointillism, which is an art movement that he was recognized for, and that kind of pointillist technique was a founding technique for the Neo-Impressionism movement. Now this painting is when Cameron, one of Ferris's friends, he's his best friend actually, is staring at this painting and he's just examining it and going closer and closer, and he's just looking deep into this painting and he gets like emotional by it. Throughout the scenes that they're in the art gallery, you can see them looking at different paintings. That's too many to mention if I had to mention each one. You can see that there are various artworks from Paul Gauguin, Henri Matisse, Pablo Picasso, Claude Monet and many others. There's also this iconic scene with Ferris and Sloane where they're sitting by the stained glass window. Now I managed to find the name of that stained glass. It's America Windows, and it was by Marc Chagall, and it was done in the 70s, designed around American history, Chicago skyline and appreciation of the arts as well. Next movie I'll be talking about is literally the ultimate horror movie for an artist. I was watching it quite recently and I was literally cringing on the couch. It's Bean. If you watch this movie, you can probably relate to what I'm feeling right now. It is central around Mr. Bean working as a security guard in the National Gallery of London, but he doesn't do his job properly because that's Mr. Bean. Americans want them to send somebody over that is a specialist, an art critic or something like that, and the people in charge of this museum want to get rid of him, so they send Mr. Bean. Instead of actually somebody that can actually do the job, they send Mr. Bean, and he's mistaken to be this doctor and art expert, and he ends up staying with the curator for the Gerson Art Gallery in Los Angeles in California. This event all centers around the unveiling of the Whistler's Mother painting by James Abbott McNear Whistler. So add Mr. Bean into the mix and you can only imagine what happens. He sneezes on the painting, he uses a tissue that has ink all over it, he makes the paint face blue, he then uses lacquer thinner to try and clean it off and dissolves the painting, and then he decides to draw some cartoon face on it. Now this painting's ruined, but it hasn't been unveiled yet, so it's been hidden away and it's been closed away, so now he breaks into the gallery and he has to try and fix this. So thankfully they've made life-size posters of it, able to put something together with the poster and able to save the day in the end, but still definitely made me recognize the painting The Whistler's Mother, and that painting will always be associated with that movie. Okay, the next one is literally one of my top 5 favorite books. I mentioned it in the other art history video that I did, and it is the Da Vinci Code, the Robert Langdon series. I think the Robert Langdon series is amazing for art history lovers because they literally delve into the symbolic meanings of different symbols in churches, different carvings, different paintings, and this one especially, it's the Da Vinci Code, so you can presume that it's got something to do with art history, with Leonardo da Vinci, the Leonardo da Vinci paintings that are associated with this movie. The Louvre curator is positioned in the Louvre in the model of the Vitruvian Man, which sets the stage for the Da Vinci references. They look for certain symbolisms in other Da Vinci paintings like the Mona Lisa and Madonna and the Rocks. You just see all these kind of interpretations. Now, they're probably not true interpretations, it's probably just Dan Brown doing his thing, just trying to create something out there, but it's definitely plausible and definitely very clever. Actually, the main painting that is described in this movie is The Last Supper. It alludes to the idea that Mary Magdalene is actually the one sitting next to Jesus Christ in the painting, and how Mary Magdalene was the wife of Jesus Christ in the movie. So it kind of delves into those kind of secret societies, religious symbolisms. There's mentionings of Westminster Abbey and the architecture in there with the Isaac Newton statue. There is Rosslyn Chapel that gets mentioned and all its hidden gems in architecture there. So it's definitely filled with art history and filled with art references that an art historian will definitely love. The fourth one I'll be mentioning is Night at the Museum 2, Battle of the Smithsonian. This movie is got a particular scene because, you know, in Night at the Museum, all the pits in the museum come to life at night. This particular one is when he goes to the Smithsonian, and there is the National Gallery of Art there in Washington, D.C. And all the paintings come to life and the sculptures come to life, which I think is really cool. Larry and Amelia Earhart are just going through this art gallery, and they come across The Thinker by Auguste Rodin. This particular sculpture will always be associated with this movie for me, and him saying I'm thinking, but he like never really gives an answer, and then he gets distracted with the Venus sculpture that's also there, which was done by Antonio Canova. You'll also notice in the National Museum of Art there is like a balloon dog that's just jumping around, going all over the place. Well, I found the person who actually did that, and his name was Jeff Koons. But then there's also the Little Dancer of 14 Years, which is done by Edgar Degas, who's always famous for doing the ballerina paintings in Paris. So this is a lovely little ballerina sculpture that he did too, that's also in the movie. And then they come to the crucial scene where you've got these Egyptians trying to hunt Larry because he's got the tablet, which is crucial to the plot of the Night at the Museum movies. And he's in this like little area. Now, a lot of these paintings, they're actually not in the National Museum of Art. I found that out whilst looking at it. They're actually in other places. But anyways, for this movie, they're in this little area, so we presume that they're probably like those traveling paintings that you'll see if you go to an art gallery, like those temporary exhibitions. There is The Crying Girl by Roy Lichtenstein, which is actually a porcelain enamel on still, which is kind of a unique compilation, which is a good example of pop art. You got the American Gothic with two actors standing there with the pitchfork, and how the Larry Ben Stiller character like grabs the pitchfork and he tries to fight off the kind of Egyptian soldiers that are trying to hunt him down. With all the drama that ensues, we also see the Nighthawks painting by Edward Hopper. The bartender like breaks the glass and he's trying to get into the fight there, even though he's like so small and he's in a painting, but he's like trying to get in the action and the fight there too. It's just it's so fun and playful. I really love that scene with all the paintings coming to life. And then we also notice a photograph, because photographs can also be forms of artwork. So we see the photograph of Victory over Japan Day in Times Square, which is a photograph taken by Alfred Eisenstadt when World War II ended. So we notice that Larry jumps into this picture and ends up being transported to that time in the 40s. And then finally, we've got one of my ultimate comfort movies, and that is Midnight in Paris. You can just see by the background that this is art related or creativity related in a way, even though that the Starry Night is like not mentioned at all and there's no Vincent van Gogh in it, but it still looks pretty cool. Gil, which is played by Owen Wilson, he and his fiancée are going with her family to Paris. He loves Paris, and the movie starts off with certain scenes about Paris. So the movie is how he walks the streets of Paris at night and he goes to a certain spot, and then when the clock strikes midnight, he gets transported back to the golden age, the 20s, where there was just such creativity and such a vibe. there was like such a creative vibe going on in the 20s in Paris, and he gets transported to it because he wants to write a book. He is fascinated with the olden days and golden age, especially the 20s. He loves Paris in the 20s. So when he sees all his like literary heroes and art heroes, he's just overwhelmed, because there's like F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife Zelda, there's Ernest Hemingway, there's other famous names, but the art names that are mentioned, so we've got the avant-garde artists are like Pablo Picasso, who has a small role in it, Salvador Dali, he captures the surrealism essence of what Dali was. We even have Henry Matisse making a little bit of a mention. Also, part of the movie goes around one of the paintings that Pablo Picasso did. I just found Bather of 1928, and the reason why it's mentioned in the movie, it has a whole storyline around the Marion Cotillard character of Adriana, and it's probably not, it's not true at all, it's fiction, but in the movie it alludes to that particular portrait of her. I'm not a big fan of that kind of style of painting, but I just thought I would mention it anyway because it was alluding to that kind of artwork in that movie too. It's a good art reference, and part of the movie is there is this other character, like a friend character of his fiancée, that seems to like know it all about everything, and he like starts giving the history of the painting, but Gil was actually there in the 20s when it was getting done, so he actually knows the true history, and then he like kind of just blows everybody away and just gives off his own little history spin to it. So I think that's pretty cool. They time hop a little bit more, and they go back to the 1890s to the Moulin Rouge kind of Belle Epoque time, and they even run into artists in the Moulin Rouge like Henry Toulouse-Lautrec, who's actually got quite an interesting storyline that I'll probably cover in a case study at some stage in the future video, because we've got quite an interesting life story. There's Paul Gauguin. There is Edgar Degas. In this movie that's an hour and a half, it's like jam-packed full of art history names, literary names, all names from that kind of time period, so I think it's very cleverly put together. I just thought I'd mention those few honourable mentions that I noticed as I was watching it in that movie, and I probably missed a few things here and there, but those are the ones I could pinpoint and get some information on. Anyways, so that is my top 5 mentions from movies that I could find in my collection of DVDs downstairs. Comment or send a message on what extra movies I could do for a part 2, because I think there are a few movies that I am missing. So let me know what is your movie that you'd go to see some art related things inside. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope to do more art history videos and more videos like this in the future. I find them very fun, and I find that I actually learn a little bit in the process too, so it helps me keep my art history up. And TTFN, ta-ta for now, see you in the next video, bye!